Well, my friends, if there's one thing this new season of Dexter has been doing, it's highlighting, right from the start of the series, the New York Ripper. Even though no one has the slightest idea who he is, we've already seen him mentioned by Prither back in episode 4, in the scene where he shows Dexter the trophies, and also by Detective Wallace during her lecture in the last episode, showing that she's been investigating him ever since she joined the police force. And he was also mentioned by Batista, when he walked into Detective Wallace's office and saw all those newspaper clippings on her wall. And somehow, the show's directors must have a much bigger plan for him. Even though he's still an absent character in the series, they've managed to create a huge hype around his story, since he was mentioned during the detective's lecture as a serial killer who has probably strangled more than 22 people and has never even been discovered. And even after years of not committing any crimes, he still deeply haunts the families of the victims, as we saw in the audio that Detective Wallace played during her lecture. But come on, the question is, who really is the serial killer known as the New York Ripper? This has been one of the biggest questions of this new season of Dexter Resurrection. And you've probably already heard some theory or come across one online about who the true identity of this serial killer tormenting New York City in the Dexter series might be. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video, who he really could be, bringing you the best theories from internet forums. So I'm already warning you that some of these theories make total sense, with a very important character who showed up in the original Dexter series back in the early 2000s as a suspect. So if you love Dexter as much as I do, stick with me until the end of this video, because it's packed with information, theories, and plenty of suspicions about characters who are right in front of us. And up until now, we haven't suspected him. So stick with me until the end of this video, because today is another day for us to talk about Dexter Resurrection. And roll the intro. Hey, my friends. Welcome to another video here on the channel. I'm Jeff, and welcome to everyone who's joining us because of the new season of Dexter and following the videos, since the videos have been doing really well. I'm really grateful that you're enjoying it, because my work here, I do a lot of research to really bring this content to you. In fact, for this video here, where I'm talking about the New York Ripper, I went after a lot of information to put this script together, so I really hope you like it. And if you do, go ahead and leave a like, okay? Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, because that way you help me out, and you also get, really great content like this. And now, without further ado, oh wait, before that, okay? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos this week, since we'll be bringing episode 8. And also, if the little hype button shows up down here, you'll be helping me out a lot. And now, without further delay, let's get into talking about this serial killer who's been making such a splash on social media. So, before we get started here, let's give a little background on who the New York Ripper really was in this series. Because, from what's been said, he was a killer who racked up more than 22 victims over time and was never found, and not even a clue about who he was ever discovered by the police. So really, the only thing we know about the serial killer is an audio recording that Detective Wallace herself played during her lecture in the last episode. And according to what's told in Prither's story, he operated on the streets of New York, the very same streets where Prither grew up. And he used the hook, the kind used to lift manhole covers, almost like a crowbar, but with a grabber at the end. It's the same weapon that Prither ended up buying and put in his trophy room in that mansion we saw in episode 4, where Dexter goes to check out the room. Everyone in the series says that he's been missing for many years, which suggests he's no longer active. However, the show mentions this character so much that it makes you think we might already be seeing him in the series. We just don't know who he really is yet. That's normal in the Dexter series, right? Because for several seasons during the classic Dexter, we ended up finding out that some serial killer was actually someone Dexter knew, or someone we were already seeing right in front of us, close to Dexter, like we saw with the Trinity case, right? But in the case of the New York Ripper, we basically got nothing, just the stories told about him. And that alone was enough for fans of the series to start coming up with all sorts of theories about who the New York Ripper really is. And one of the main suspects on this list, according to the fans, is none other than our beloved billionaire Leon Prither, right? Obsessed with collecting serial killer trophies, if the series ends up revealing that Prither is actually the real New York Ripper, it might not be such a huge shock, right? After all, we saw him showing off his trophies, his collection of serial killers, And he even had an enthusiastic expression when he presented the weapon of the New York Ripper serial killer, didn't he? As if he were bragging about never having been caught for his actions. Another point that shows that if he isn't the Ripper, at the very least he knows him, is the fact that he bought the weapon used in the crimes, something that clearly wouldn't be so easy to find, and also the fact that he mentioned having lived on the same streets where the serial killer operated when he was a child. So, is it just a coincidence? Right. But aside from all that, I don't think it would be that simple for a guy of Prither's height to handle such a big and heavy weapon like a manhole cover hook, which might rule the billionaire out from this list, leaving him just as a serial killer enthusiast, as he actually describes himself. But I mean, I don't know, okay? We can't completely rule out any character from this list, because like I already told you, Leon Prither talked about the serial killer. The serial killer, as if he was really close to the serial killer. So, like I said, let's not rule anyone out until we actually find out who the serial killer really is. Our second theory here points the finger at none other than Jonah Mitchell. Yes, the son of Dexter's old rival, known as Trinity, the best villain in Dexter so far. Yeah, if they do that, it would probably be a huge fan service for fans of the original Dexter series. But to understand this theory a little better, we have to go back to around season 6 or 7, when Dexter ends up meeting Jonah, and Jonah reveals to Dexter that he himself killed his mother after finding out that his sister took her own life following some psychological torture from their mother. Just that already indicated that maybe the boy had, tendencies to be a psychopath like his own father, especially after everything he went through, right, losing his father who was a serial killer. And one of the scenes that made fans start to think that Jonah might be the so-called New York Ripper is when Jonah tries to attack Dexter in the back of the store where he worked. And the weapon he ended up using at that moment was very similar to a manhole cover hook, but in a slightly smaller version. Right, really a hook, but very similar, and he seemed to know how to handle that weapon very well. It's also worth remembering that Dexter spared Jonah's life there, and after that, we never saw him again in the series. We never heard about him again, except for some information on the computer that we end up seeing later in the following seasons. But if we go by the time the serial killer was active in New York, the numbers just don't add up, right? Because Jonah seems much younger than Prither, and Prither himself says that the New York Ripper was killing on the streets of New York when he was still a child. Or actually, could it be that we ended up interpreting Prither's statement wrong? And what if, actually, what he meant was that the New York Ripper operated on the same streets where Prither grew up, suggesting that maybe he started killing there, but many years after Prither was a child. That could maybe make Jonah a real potential suspect, but as we already know, the last time Jonah was seen was in Nebraska, which is pretty far from New York. Still, nothing would stop him from seeking a fresh start, running from his past, and maybe beginning a new legacy, as the new, highly sought-after serial killer in New York. But I want to hear from you. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now, I think this is the theory that people sent me the most, and also the one I've seen circulating the most online in the past few days. The theory that maybe the real New York Ripper could actually be someone very close to Dexter, someone wearing the mask of a good guy that we never suspect, or at least not until episode 6, since everything changed after that. This suspect would be none other than Blessing, right? The taxi driver and Dexter's friend, the good family man who gets along with everyone, always helping out with a smile on his face. Yeah, I think we've seen this before, haven't we, in the Dexter series? That's because we already saw it when we met Trinity, a good family man with a disturbing story behind him. But what makes fans, right, think that Blessing could really be the serial killer? So, fans are theorizing that Blessing might actually be the New York Ripper because he told Dexter his whole real story during episode 6, where he said his childhood was disturbing and he even killed someone when he was part of the Revolutionary Army in Sierra Leone. However, he was rescued at that time by his mother, and that's when he ended up redeeming himself for his entire past. But hold on, did he really do all of that? Or is he just using this good family man persona as a disguise? This kind of thing became normal in Dexter, right? Like I said, we've already seen Trinity, and now we've also seen Rapunzel, who follows the same path, having a family and being a serial killer. And I don't know if Blessing really could be the serial killer or not. But if that actually happens, it would be a huge surprise given the circumstances. He seems like such a good person in the series and helps Dexter so much. But we also have to consider that maybe he did all of this because he saw something in Dexter that was similar to himself. the darkness that Dexter has. Maybe he identified with that, and it would make sense if we think about the speech he gave about his mother warning him never to bring darkness into his home again. Maybe that means he recognized the darkness in Dexter, and that's what made him open up to him. Of course, as the episodes go on, we might get other suspects, and maybe that's exactly what the directors want, because by doing this, we end up coming up with a lot of theories, right? And that really boosts the hype around the series, keeping it trending just like it has been. But there's one thing I'm sure of, probably in the last episode. When that little party happens, the one Prither himself invited Dexter to in the last episode, that's when we're really going to meet the New York Ripper. And that will be a hook for the next season, where we might see Dexter investigating more deeply, especially since it's been confirmed that there will be at least 2 more seasons of Dexter Resurrection, and if it were up to me, there could be 5 more and I'd watch them all. But that's it. I want to know from you, which one from this list do you really think is the New York Ripper, the biggest mystery of this new season of Dexter? It's worth remembering that there are other suspects too, because when the audio played, the one that showed, the serial killer speaking in his new recording, it sparked some theories suggesting that the detective who works with Detective Wallace could be the one, since the voice in the subtitled version sounds a lot like his. I don't know, but I want to hear from you guys. I want you to leave your thoughts in the comments, because there really is a lot we can investigate in this new season of Dexter that could make sense. And it definitely will make sense, because in the last episode, mark my words, we'll finally see the New York Ripper revealed. And I want to know what you thought of this video here. Did you like it? Leave a comment here, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. We're bringing a lot of Dexter videos, so don't forget, okay? Leave a like, it really helps me out a lot. Hype up the video here too so it can reach more people, and our channel can grow together. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, and I'm out.